What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Halo review. It's Halo Episode 4, Homecoming, so let's get into it. I'm not going to break down every piece of the episode. I'm going to just mostly talk about things that I liked, things that I didn't, and I'll get this out of the way just right out of the gate. The Quan Soren stuff, I just don't care. That's my biggest gripe with this episode. It's a storyline that I feel like could have been dropped. This show could have easily just run with two storylines, honestly, three storylines. Because this episode we get nothing from High Charity, and in the stuff with that, and all the Covenant shit that's kind of pushed to the side. I would have preferred that instead of Quan and Soren. They go back to Madrigal because Senator Vishnu, or whatever the fuck his name is a dick and causing problems, and Quan wants to go back to save her family. We know that because that's what they talked about in episode 3. And honestly, if I seem a little even more annoyed than usual with that, it's because I recorded a full episode and the sound wasn't working, so I've had to re-record this. So as I do it more, the more annoyed I get. So, like Soren himself, I think would have been a fine character to have, like this pirate, former Spartan. Again, I've talked about this in other episodes. I know that he's a part of the extended universe and whatever. It would have been cool to see more just him. But no, we're stuck with Quan as well. And it's not the actress or anything like that. It really is the character. The character is just kind of annoying. And I get that they're like a teenager and she's younger and all this stuff. But it's like, bro, the Covenant just annihilated your family, killed your father, and the senator dude is killing people. I get that. But it's like, what are you really going to do? You just got one pirate dude, and that's it. What are you going to do? You know, and I just feel like this storyline could have ended after episode 2, to be honest, or episode 3 even, and just had her hang out with Soren and live on that planet or the asteroid that Soren's on instead of this shit with Madrigal. I just don't care. I just feel like every time they do this, it brings the show to a screeching halt. And this isn't the show's fault, but with Tatooine and everything with Book of Boba Fett, I'm just sick of desert planets. Show me some green, man. I'm sick of these deserts. But anyway, the things that I really enjoyed this episode, Silver Team gets a lot more shine, and I love that. I wanted to see more, to see more of his team and see how their reaction to everything with Chief, with the Cortana stuff, with him going to his home planet with Halsey, and they touch on that in this episode. Keyes is looking at the art of is it Marissa Keyes? I think so. She's looking at the artifact, and then Silver Team comes in and talks to her about it because they're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with Chief and Halsey and all that. And we also see that before they run into Keyes, we see something interesting about Kaya. She was the one that I thought in the 3rd episode she was a little nefarious because she was snooping on Master Cheeks while he was taking out the pellet, and I thought that was setting her up to be a snitch, you know. But actually, it's quite the opposite. She took that as inspiration, and she herself is butt-ass naked, and she takes the pellet out of her back and throws it into the sink, which I thought was really cool. I'm glad that there was a little twist there, and it wasn't super predictable. And the more time spent with Silver Team, the better. The more time spent with Chief and Silver, because there's 4 plot lines here. There's the main stuff with what Chief is doing with the artifact. There's Silver Team trying to figure out what's going on as well with Chief and Halsey and all that stuff. And then there's the Covenant storyline, and then the Quan and Soren stuff. And honestly, you should have just dropped the Quan and Soren stuff, because while people may argue, because this, again, takes liberties and makes changes because this is an adaptation. This isn't 100% the books or the games, I mean. So you could argue that it isn't exactly Halo, but that is the most Halo-feeling part of this show, is those other 3 storylines. The Quan and Soren stuff, not so much. And I get so frustrated because I was enjoying the time that we spent with Silver Team and Master Chief. And I know that there hasn't been a ton of action since the 1st episode, and it's a lot of world building from episode 2 through 4, and I get that. But this is a 10-episode season, so I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we hit episode 5 next week, we're seeing a shit ton of action in the next 6 episodes. I totally think that's what's going to happen, because it's definitely building to something more. Back to the Silver Team stuff, I love that we got a little explanation of the Needler. And then we find out that Kaya, she also changed her hair because she took the palette out, so she's trying different things and experiencing new things. And Keys did the polite thing that you do when someone has a bad haircut. You just be like, oh, cool. Or bad hairdo. It's like, hey, it looks nice. Which they allude to later in the episode. But we get a little bit more explanation of the Needler. And we have this moment where Keys is like, I should be asking you guys more because you come in direct contact. Which meanwhile, me as the viewer being like, yeah, no shit. You guys never heard of military intel? Like, of course you should be talking to the Spartans who fight the Covenant for a living. You would think that Keys would talk to them. I mean, come on. But regardless, it was nice to see the Silver Team give her some help and help out the science. And I get maybe that she's a scientist. She's not really a military mind, whatever. But even then, me, an idiot on his couch, was like, why not just talk to them more about this shit? And there was a really good joke about that too. And she's talking about the Needler. He's like, Covenant. She says what the Covenant call it in their language. And Keys is like, is that what it means? And she goes, it's either that or, oh shit, please don't kill me with that. Which I thought was funny. It was a nice joke. We also get more backstory that at one point Halsey had Silver Team have animals. We find Kaya said she had a dog. Riz had a cat. Venick said he had a pig. And they would hunt in the woods and try and survive in the woods. And then if you lost, your pet would be taken away. And Keys is like, oh, I should just get rid of it. No, she fucking killed it. So, again, we're finding out Halsey, a real cold-hearted bitch, you know, killing animals. That's where I draw the line. I'm just kidding. I don't usually use that term to describe women, but I'm sorry. When you kill an innocent animal for your war games, it's bullshit. Because her whole line behind it was like Spartans need to bond with each other and rely on each other. And it's like, sure, Halsey, whatever you say. And then we find out with Silver Team at the very end of the episode, we finally get the word Halo in the Halo show 4 episodes in. And we kind of build up what that's going to be. But there's also a great sequence because meanwhile, Chief is with Halsey on his home planet, and he's in his old rundown his childhood home. It's been kind of destroyed, but Cortana is able to recreate the places in the house from his memory. And also the people bitching about Chief not wearing a helmet. He wears his helmet for like majority of the scenes that he's in, so there's something there because he's using the helmet to help reconstruct the house, and then by doing that, he's able to start remembering what it was like. So this could kind of start build to him figuring out where the second piece of the artifact is. And I thought, people, again, I've been complaining. There hasn't been as much action. There's a lot of backstory, a lot of world building and flashbacks. But I like this extended flashback scene because we're getting more of Chief's backstory. And again, people, Halo purists out there will be upset. And I get that, but this isn't the same Chief, and they've said that from Jump Street. This is not the same Master Chief that you know, because the Master Chief that you know is you, the player. I said this last episode. It's the same situation. They're fleshing out and humanizing Chief, which is the same thing they were doing with Silver Team in this episode they're doing here with Master Chief, and I think that's smart, because if I'm being... Oh, excuse me, I hit the camera. If I'm being totally honest, majority of these characters, I don't really care about them. Other than Master Chief and what Halsey's doing and all that stuff, the politics behind it, yeah, I care about that. But I don't care about Soren. That's unfair. I wish I could care about Soren, but he's saddled up with Quan. I don't care about that. I don't care about Madrigal. I don't care about the dude who's killing those people. I don't care about any of that. I don't even necessarily care about the human female villain. What I really care about is Silver Team and Master Chief, and they focused on that in this episode, and that's probably why I enjoyed it so much. But there's a great moment. Towards the end of the episode, Chief finds out that Halsey met him before the orphanage. So she was in that home, and he was flipping a coin, and he got it like 11 times in a row or something like that. And she's like, that's impressive. But we find out that Halsey met him before the orphanage, which, again, I think is going to reveal the thing behind the Spartan stuff. It's not orphanages. They were kidnapping kids, and they were kidnapping people to build the Spartan program. And we're seeing a little bit more how nefarious the UNSC can be and is, and how, as I mentioned earlier, how evil Halsey really seems to be. And I love that. And I'm wondering if we're going to see Cortana maybe shift her allegiance, because, again, she's still kind of like this little spy, but maybe through what Chief is experiencing in his memories, that she's going to shift and probably help Chief more, which is, I think, what they should do, and they might do in this show. I don't know. But the ending is great because we finally go to the cave from Chief's childhood, and he's able to find the second artifact. And in that process, we have this line from Keyes where she says, what Kaya's talking about, the change to her hair, and she says that the change in the hair, that might be a glitch. From what I know, Halsey doesn't like glitches, and that's how we end the episode, as Chief is looking up at the artifact. I know that the show might be tipping its hand and trying to say, like, maybe Halsey's going to kill Chief. I don't think that's true. I think that Chief, at least, maybe it's different in the show, but my perception of Halsey and Chief's relationship is Chief is the crown jewel. That is her best experiment with the Spartans. He's the shining example of what the Spartans should be in combat. So I don't think she's going to try and kill him and get rid of him. But who knows? Maybe they'll do something a little bit different. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. Looking back, I think episode 2 is the only one that kind of made me question it, but I really enjoyed last week's episode. I enjoyed this episode. I only wish we could get a little bit more with Cortana and Chief and build up that relationship, because that was such a solid foundation in the games, and they started to build it in episode 3, and I think they're going to progress it the rest of the season, because I do hope my theory is somewhat correct. I don't mind being wrong with predictions, but I do hope that at least on some level, she comes around and helps Chief and figures things out, because they're definitely building Halsey being the villain of this show. So we'll see what happens. What did you think of Halo Episode 4, Homecoming? Comment below. Let me know. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. What are you doing, man? Watch more great videos like this. And then when you subscribe, click the bell so you see this as soon as it goes up. Because you want to be like all the cool kids. You know you do. Also, I totally missed my opportunity to say pizza time, but if you subscribe and you click that bell, you know what I'll say?
Nice.
I will. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week for another Halo review on Off Panel Off Topic.
And that's it.